Good evening, guys, and happy Friday to all of your sunshiny faces. So guys, the whole feels like summer's over sort of thing sort of hit me a little bit more even today, because I was telling you guys the reason I was sort of thinking that anyway too is because Jack had like a scrimmage game that they actually ended up playing today. It was a super like basic, they didn't even use the whole field, and they didn't have like announcers keep score or anything like that. It was just like they were hosting it. Like a lot of times we don't wind up having like them come to our school, and when we do, like normally like during the summer, they wind up doing it also like during like earlier in the day. Like they'll do it and host it like at like 11 o'clock or something like that. And again too, at least that I remember, I really don't even think like Matthew's team ever ended up having one like at school, like at our home school. It was always like they played like away. So they had that like here this year, and like they invited like parents, family to end up coming because it was later and it was also at home as well. So we ended up going and got to see Jack, but it was sort of like I was saying, like it's bittersweet because literally just yesterday in my memories, like on Facebook, it popped up and said like, oh, it was 8 years ago today that like one of my pictures, and it was actually the first time that Jack got his pads, I think, or they first were wearing helmets or something like that for his first year of tackle football 8 years ago. And then today ended up being the day where it was the first scrimmage really that we got to go to of his last year of high school football. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. But like now that I'm even thinking about it too, I'm like, we like, I was like, oh, it's like the end of July, like summer's, feels like it's over. And I was like, honestly though, it was normally like around like the week, like the second or third week, I think normally the third week, it depended, like of July was when the football would start. And normally they did like the first week like without pads, and the second week they had pads on. And so I think that was why I took the picture, because like Jack, the ones that are actually 8 years from tomorrow though, those were the ones where he actually was fully padded up. He just had his helmet on in the one that was in yesterday. And then, like I said, like 2 days later, they had like the full pads on. And I was like, Jack looks like a little bowling ball, because it was like so like short and like round, and like with his pads on, it made him look even more like rounded, like a little bowling ball. He's so stinking cute. So yeah, I think that was actually what I posted on there too, is like he looked like a little bowling ball. But like I said, that was, like 8 years ago. And so this is we figured though, he played only 8 seasons of football, but there was 1 year where there wasn't a team at his level. So it was his 8th grade year, his last year of like youth football before he went into high school. He wasn't able to play because there was only like 4 kids or 5 kids or something like that that probably would have still been on the team. So he didn't end up playing that year. So they had like he didn't play, but that would be 9 seasons. So it was 9 seasons, but he took one off because we were trying to figure out, because he's like, 8 years, that seems like so like not right. And then I was like, yeah, because you played for 4 years, you have 1 year off, and now this is your 4th year of like high school football. So I was like, so it's 8 years but 9 years, or like 9 seasons worth. So yeah, like I said, that makes sense now. But it was taking us forever to try and figure that out. So yeah, like I said, Jack has got like his last year of football. And that's the other thing that's so sad though, is that like I literally, like, it was super weird though too because of COVID. So they did have all 4 seasons, which I know that a lot of kids, over the 2020 2021 season, really, they didn't get to play at all. A lot of schools didn't wind up having like sports and stuff like that. But Jack's team, actually, they weren't able to play in the fall, but they were able to play in the spring. So he had a spring season in 2021. or is that right? No, I'm sorry, 2020. No, that's not right either. I couldn't have had a spring season then. It had to have been 2021. Yes, he had a spring season and then a fall season. So it was like the prior school year and then the next school year, but they were only within like a season apart basically. Instead of being like a whole year apart, they played in spring and then they had summer, which they had summer camp for, and then they had fall, which was Jack's junior year of like football, high school football. But the year prior was his sophomore year, where like I said, like they were still just barely, I think, coming back to school or something like that year, in that spring. So because it'd been like an entire like calendar school year before they were really able to come back. So like I said, though, they were actually able to like play that year, which was still cool. So we still got all 4 years of football. It was just 2 were sort of smashed together. And I was like thinking about that too, because I was like I don't remember that season really, just because it seemed not like it didn't matter, but like we didn't wind up going to a lot of the varsity games because like they also were doing like limited seating and stuff like that. And like because like Jack wasn't playing in the varsity games though, but because my dad was coaching, he was normally staying afterwards. And so I think that like maybe we were able to stay for like a couple of them, but then on top of that too, we normally would just come home and like watch it on, because they were actually like sharing it, you know, like on, I don't know, YouTube, like live and stuff like that. So you could still watch it, and they actually I think carried it over into last season as well, which was pretty cool. I don't know if they're gonna do it this year, but like I remember when I was in high school, like the live, like, you know, broadcast sort of thing was sort of like new. And I remember that there was like one away game my my junior year, I think, where they actually had it broadcasted like on like, you know, like it wasn't even like YouTube, it was like something else, like some specific like sports like program thingy that they were doing it through. But again, like live feeds were not super common. Again, this was in 2013 I think, or maybe 2012 actually. It would have been that year, like that season. And so like it, like I said, wasn't super popular, like not a whole ton of schools were doing that. I just remember being like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, like I can sit at home and watch the football game, because again, it wasn't at home. And I think that year it was really weird, they had like 6 of the 8 home games, or like 6 of the 8 games were at home or something like that. So I remember being like, well, at least one of them I still get to watch, even though it's not, it's not going to be at home, because I went to, I think, every one of the home games that year, but I was like, I'm not going to the 2 away games. And so it was really far away one too. And so I was like, oh, I can just still watch it from, you know, like sitting at home. So like I said, that was actually pretty cool. But now it's like a little bit more common. So like, I think that that's something that they might wind up keeping from, like, you know, like the COVID, you know, like that sort of changed it for them to actually have broadcasting it every week, you know, of the football games, which would be pretty cool. So, but I barely remember that like 2021 spring season. I remember last season better, it seems like, that just seemed more normal, and the spring season just seemed almost like it was just sort of like youth football almost again. Like Jack was a sophomore, so they were still playing at like the frost off level, so like it was like it didn't matter, like record doesn't, you know, like matter really, anything like that at the frost off level. And so I was like, you know, it just felt kind of like a throwaway season anyway, on top of that too, because Jack, you know, like his like, you know, like I said, the frost off level not counting, and it being a spring season, and just like, I don't know, it was sort almost like a preparation for like the following season, like the fall season. But like I do know that some of those seniors that were on that team last year, that like I was like, at least they still got to experience that, because it would have really stunk had they not been able to play that year. Like one of the kids I knew that graduated that year had played like youth football all the way up through, and so like, you know, pretty much knew their family and everything like that. And I was like, that would have really stunk again had they not gotten that. But it just, especially like I said, for that frost off team, more so than the varsity team, just sort of felt like it wasn't really like all of too much importance. So like I said, I'm happy and looking forward to this year's football season, but it sort of just, like I said, hit a little bit more like summer's kind of almost over, like we're already into football. But like the weather definitely didn't feel like that, but it was definitely very warm out today. But like I said, it just, like it's like July is sort of like over already, and we're again sort of almost into August, you know, like we only got, you know, this weekend really of July left, and then we're into August. And so you know, again, we've got like, you know, but I was thinking about that too, because I was like, normally our public pool, it's always open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I was thinking about that too, because I'm gonna get those fillets on sale at Jewel this week, actually tomorrow, which I'll have in my haul for you guys tomorrow. Jewel's meat deals specifically, only those, Meyer and one little deal from Walgreens, so I'll have that for you guys tomorrow. But I was gonna get those fillets on sale at Jewel, and I was like, okay, well maybe we can do those like for Labor Day like weekend, and so I was thinking about doing that. But then I was like, okay, well, and then my mom's birthday, and I was like, but Labor Day is gonna come before my mom's birthday. And then I looked on the calendar and I was like, wait, no, that's not until I think September 8th is Labor Day. And so I was like, and my mom's birthday is August 23rd, I want to say. And so I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh, so I can get those for both of those things and have them, you know, like already bought, which will be really nice. But I was thinking that her birthday fell before Labor Day, because I was like, September 8th seems so late. I was like, compared to like, and then I started thinking about it too. I was like, no, like most of August is still summer. Like, but I don't know, it doesn't feel like that to me. Like, it seems like always just like as soon as July is over, like summer is over. And I'm like, it's really not, like we still have all of August left. And then again too, like even September is still like hot summer weather out, even though again most people go back to school by then. Like still, even August is like I don't even know when Jack goes back to school, but I don't think Matthew technically goes back to school until like late August. But because of the like his fraternity and stuff like that, they have like, I don't know what it's called, something like going on, and I think recruiting, which I think takes place through a good portion of August, like earlier on. So that's why he's not gonna be, I think he has 1 week left that he's staying here or something like that. And I think he's going back like the second, I think that would be the second weekend, or is that first weekend in August, something like that. So he's going back to school, like I said, somewhat earlier like than he has normally in the past. But this is last year of like school, but him going back to school earlier I think is also throwing me off a little bit. And I don't know when Jack is actually starting school. Like his school schedule too has been sort of weird, not only because of the pandemic years, but also too because like I remember that his freshman year, even to the scheduling, and even to the pre-2020 like school year, so 2019 really to 2020 school year, was weird because they had like construction going on at the high school, so their start and like end dates were really weird too. And so I think even too like the pandemic year, like that following like 2020, like they also like going into the 2020-2021 school year, like last year, it was also weird I think because they just finished, so they had to like start the school year like at a weird or different time or something like that. So I think this is the first year where Jack's actually having like a regular sort of like start date and or ending date. But because he's a senior too, they normally wind up technically ending a little bit earlier. Not earlier, but like they end up, I think because the graduation date is always set, even if they wind up having like snow days or off days, which technically they don't get snow days anymore too in school, because they have their like Chromebooks where they do all of their work, and they, even on days when they have like a snow day, like they can't come into school, or inclement weather day, they still have to do their homework, so it still counts as a school day. I think they don't have to make those up anymore, whereas when I was in school and we got snow days, we never had to, well, we had to make those up, but we didn't have any work that we still had to do. And on top of that too, when we were seniors, we didn't have to make them up, which I remember we got several snow days and or like inclement weather days too. There was one day where the power went out at school, and they only half the school was like lit. The teachers couldn't even have class in half of the rooms. They had to like go, like some of them could that had like windows, but some of the interior school rooms couldn't even have class. Like they had to like go in the hallways and stuff like that to have class. But they cut the day I think in half then, and thing that was sad was that I actually had a dentist appointment that day, so I didn't even get to experience it. Then there was like 2 days I remember where we got canceled. Like we went to school, but then it got canceled because of snow. There was another day too where there was flooding outside of the school. I think we got canceled like because of that. Like I said, I remember there being quite a few days where it was either like a snow day or some type of like inclement weather day where it was like that, and we didn't have to go to school, and we didn't have to make it up either because we were seniors, and the end date was set in stone. They couldn't change it. So even again, if we had like 3 weeks off because of a blizzard, we didn't have to make it up, which is pretty cool. I think that might have been the exception if it was like way too many days, obviously, but like in that case, it was still like as long as it was under like a certain amount, we still didn't have to make it up, which was, like I said, neat. But I forgot where I was totally going with that. Like I said, Jack's senior year this year, it won't matter. They're still ending at the same time, but I think their start date, like I said, for the first year in all three, or his 4th year finally of high school, is going to be a regular like start date. Like I remember them starting like early, like, but then also to them starting late, and for some reason too, it was really weird. His middle school also like either ended really late or like ended really early or something like that. So he either had a really short summer that year or a really long summer, but then because of his freshman year, the like construction, it ended up being, like I said, where it was either a really long summer or it was a really short summer. I can't remember. And then the same thing too, because when we were babysitting 2 summers ago or whatever it was, and Jack started school, like because the high school and the elementary schools are in a different district, he ended up starting school like something like almost 3 weeks earlier than the little boy that we were babysitting for, like where I had to keep babysitting him over the summer by myself instead of the both of us together. It was like 2 or 3 weeks because Jack had to go to school earlier, and it was the same too, like the little boy I was babysitting for, his brother's the same age as Jack, and so they were both starting school already, but then the little boy like didn't start because elementary schools didn't wind up starting for like several, like I said, it was at least 2 weeks or something like that, longer than like when they were starting. And so like I said, like their summer schedule was really weird, like as far as that, but I think this will be the first year that it's normal. I just don't know when it's supposed to be, but that's also, like I said, why it's throwing me off too, because I'm like, I don't even know when a normal like school like summer, you know, sort of has been, because Jax has been off so much, and that's really the only thing. Like Matthew's his school ends much earlier though. He like ends at like the beginning of May or something like that for college, but then he winds up, like I said, going back a little bit earlier, and then like they don't start earlier, but Matthew winds up going back normally earlier in like again August. So like I said, I don't know entirely what the school schedule is, but that's gonna be weird too, because like next year, like Jack will possibly be in college, and then Matthew will be out, but the like again, if Jack's school schedule is like that, like his summer or whatever will be way different. Or if something happens where like he doesn't wind up going to school, like, you know, and like I don't know how I'm gonna know like when summer starts and ends, because nobody's in school anymore to let me know that. You know, I'm gonna just be like, oh well, you know, it's warm outside, must be summer. Like that's how I always have, like, you know, again, like when you're in school yourself, you've always like known like when summer starts, because obviously you're off for summer break. And then the same thing too, like every year after that, like Matthew and Jack have been in school, so I've still known like when summer, you know, starts and ends. But now that they'll both possibly be out of school and by next year, how am I supposed to know when summer ends? Like, it's not going to. It's just gonna keep going. Summer will start at the same time, but I won't know when it ends. So like I said, that'll be interesting. Anyways, guys, I really need to take a shower and get to bed. I will have a haul for you guys though in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you'd subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye, guys.